Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to all of you in the room, and of course, good morning to those in Taiwan watching us live. Let me start by thanking you for joining us today at this event on Taiwan main stage, promoting gender equality in the digital age, organized by the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in New York on the sidelines of Taiwan Gender Equality Week, as well as the 67th session of the UN Commission on the Status of Women. My name is Betül Yürük. I am the Vice President of the United Nations Correspondent Association and a longtime UN correspondent. It is my great pleasure to moderate today's panel. Our discussion today will focus on promoting gender equality in the digital age and how we can close the gap. The digital age has generated great opportunities for the empowerment of women and girls, but we are still underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and maths. Women make up only 28% of the workforce in these fields. To start this off, allow me to invite Ambassador James Lee, Director General of Taipei Economic and Culture Office and Head of the UN Affairs Task Force in New York, for his opening remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
The Honorable Senate President Alvina Reynolds and the Honorable Minister Virginia Albert Bodates of St. Lucia, Foreign Moderator, Vice President Yuru of the UN Correspondent Association, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I would like to thank you all for joining this CSW side event to show your support for promoting gender equality in the digital age. In his opening remark to the CSW conference earlier this week, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted that it will take us almost 300 years to achieve gender equality on the current rate. It is not only alarming, but also unacceptable. It reminds us of the urgency to step up efforts. Taiwan is proud to lead the way in promoting gender equality. We truly believe that gender equality is a fundamental right. Only by achieving it can we ensure a better world for us all. On that note, STEM education can serve as a catalyst for promoting gender equality. This is why Taiwan spares no effort in promoting STEM education for women through both domestic and multilateral initiatives. We have implemented a number of Women in STEM initiatives in international fora and incorporate women's empowerment and STEMs into our development projects. One of the notable examples is the collaboration between Taiwan and Paraguay to establish the first polytechnic university in Paraguay to provide quality STEM education for everyone. This effort are in line with the SG's call for shortening the digital gap between men and women. I would therefore like to conclude by sharing a quote from the late US Supreme Court Justice Ruth Ginsburg. Women belong in place that decisions are being made, quote unquote. We must strive to make this a global reality as soon as possible. And I look forward to see more women thrive and take the lead to shape our future in the digital age. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Lee, thank you for your remarks. It is indeed an urgent matter for us to promote gender equality. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to draw your attention to the screen now to hear from our keynote speaker, Her Excellency Udu Sengebao Sr., Vice President of Palau.
I am humbled to take part in this important side event on promoting gender equality in the digital age, sponsored by the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in New York. Ambassador James K. Lee, Excellencies, distinguished guests and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Ali from Palau. Digital technologies are an essential part of our everyday lives. The average number of daily digital interactions per connected person is increasing dramatically from around 300 interactions in 2010, and now it's forecasted to reach almost 5,000 interactions by 2025. The COVID-19 crisis, which revolutionized the way people, companies, and governments use digital technologies to work and interact, highlighted the urgency to promote gender balance in this sector. Climate change and the increasing prevalence of natural disasters, especially to us in the Pacific, pose an urgent need to strengthen our resiliency in communications and outreach to all gender, especially those who reside in outlying and vulnerable areas such as coastlines and valleys. Equal labor market opportunities and treatment at work and striving for gender balance in the digital sector is of utmost importance. In Palau, women statistically achieve higher education than men. Yet we rarely see women in the tech sector. It's still seen as a men's job. Increasing women's participation in the digital sector can have an important impact on combating gender inequalities, stereotypes, and discrimination, thereby improving access to the labor market for women and their working conditions, as well as addressing the gender pay gap. Climate change is further increasing inequalities and fueling tensions. Drought and desertification are, as with all crisis and conflict, directly increasing gender-based violence. These interrelated facts hold us back. It holds all of us back from achieving our aspirations. And women and girls are bearing the brunt of the fallout. Our work to end gender violence against women, goes hand in hand with our efforts to achieve gender equality. One of the greatest challenges the global community faces in the 21st century is identifying, understanding, and addressing the notion of equality. From the most remote village to the most developed metropolis, from national parliaments to international bodies, the fundamental right to equality between men and women has yet to be realized. Inequality leads to discrimination, and gender discrimination leads to violence against women and girls of all ages. We must ensure that women's networks and women's tracks are part and parcel of the political tracks. That women are equally included and their voices and solutions are heard and included. This is how we restore the balance, gain a chance of peace, and stand up together for our shared values. The peace and security to which we aspire will only be possible when women play a central role. As a woman leader and gender equality advocate, I'm committed to championing new solutions by putting women at the center of adaptation, mitigation, and disaster risk management efforts, improving the lives and resilience of people in our nation and region, and making a digital and climate compatible economy a reality. Thank you. A reality. Thank you.
We thank the Vice President of Palau for this video message. Now, moving along to the first part of this panel, we'll be hearing a presentation from the Honorable Albina Reynolds, President of the Senate of St. Lucia. Please welcome the Honorable Albina Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Please permit me to adopt the protocol which has been established, but I wish to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, Ambassador James Lee, and Ms. E. Chuang Chen, Deputy Minister of National Science and Technology, and our very own Minister for the Public Service, Labor, Home Affairs, and Gender Relations from St. Lucia, the Honorable Dr. Virginia Albert Poyot, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, good evening. Good evening. Wow, just checking that we are all here. Let me again wish all the women in here and those who are in the virtual space a belated Happy International Women's Day, and of course, Happy Women's Month. We are taking the entire month of March to celebrate women's contribution to development. This evening, I shall speak on the integration of technology and gender equality and improving women's participation in decision-making in the digital era. And I'm referring to the St. Lucian context and the collaborations that we've had with many friends, where especially Taiwan has played a significant role. The ICT, Information, Communication, and Technology in Education Policy and Strategy for St. Lucia was started developing in 2010. It was completed in 2017 and ratified in 2019. And the Minister for Education during that period, the Honorable Dr. Gail Rigobert, explained that this was in keeping with the government's broader vision for improving sustainable and equitable access to technology while improving student performance, opportunities for lifelong learning, and increasing opportunities for employment in the ICT services. The ICT policy for St. Lucia is hinged on such values and principles such as equity, access, creativity, capacity building, partnership, and community development. For policy priority areas, 1. Policy priority areas, 1. Gender equity, 2. Student success, 3. Accessible and affordable education, and 4. Community development. The ICT education is embracing gender equity, thus ensuring that men and women have access for teaching and learning. ICT is used as a tool for development, and given that St. Lucia's developing economies where women face particular challenges, in terms of poverty, unemployment, undereducation, parenting, etc. We focus our efforts on using ICT as a tool to better the lives of women in St. Lucia. And through implementation of the policy, by the 1990s to 2001, ICT labs were already established in our secondary schools. 25 ICT labs were established in primary schools through the Education Enhancement ICT project throughout 2012-2013. The Caribbean Examination Council, which is our regional examination board, was offering information technology at the regional exam level. Computer science was being offered at undergraduate and postgraduate levels at the University of the West Indies. By 2012 to 2013, our government initiated the laptop program, where from 4 students of secondary schools got free laptop. Follow with me for a little bit. There were initial challenges, however, lack of preparation. These were addressed quickly. Taiwan's contribution to the laptop project was significant. They facilitated 2 years of laptop donations to the country of St. Lucia, over 200 desktop computers, over 120 projectors, over 3,300 laptops to facilitate ICT education of girls and boys in the education sector. Let's give a round of applause. This initiative democratized access to laptops at home. We saw evolving music business studio, experimenting with software, creation of own recording studios. There was an uptake for IT, but more among the boys than girls. The girls shy away from technology and were more involved in keyboarding and typing. You could see more IT technicians being males than females. To every 1 female technician was 7 males. More male IT teachers in the school system than females. That was by the early 2000s. Then the laptop program expanded. Form 4 students, not only Form 4 students received laptops, but Form 3 students at the pre-Caribbean Examination Council level. And COVID saw that expansion drastically, where the government tried to give every child a laptop or every child a device. From the laptops, we move into the smart classrooms. The government and people of the Republic of Taiwan, China, Taiwan, has assisted tremendously through its ICT in education project and then handed over, or delivered rather, over 20 smart classrooms to primary and secondary schools in St. Lucia, thus enhancing the teaching learning experience of our boys and girls. We call them multimedia classrooms. These comprised of large screen monitors, conferencing technology, and other software advancements. It supports several areas: interactive learning, recording of music, theatrical performances, video conferencing, virtual tours, interactive sports, theory, and strategy. Again, the focus is access to ICT and ICT in education to empower women and girls. One of the goals of the ministry under this policy is to provide incentives to encourage equal participation of male and female teachers in ICT skills development. The policy also attempted to develop guidelines for all schools on gender equity as it relates to ICT and ICT integration in schools. Community development. In St. Lucia, ICT can and is being used to promote local development and trade with the outside world. In marginalized communities, underserved communities, there are people whose lives must be impacted and improved. This group includes women, unemployed, poor, youth, elderly, and persons with disabilities. Their needs are being addressed through a network of national ICT centers around the country. These were set up through the public sector modernization project. We call them LRCs, Learning Resource Centers, Community Access Centers. These were set up in community libraries, and in some cases, special halls were equipped with Wi-Fi, access points or hotspots, and it was a community effort. Another initiative, and as you can see in the pictures here, these are LRCs or community centers being set up in rural and urban communities where women and children can get access to ICT for studies, etc. Another exciting initiative, the GCTF, Global Cooperation and Training Framework. It's a women's empowerment initiative, another community development program which helps to improve women's participation in decision-making. This was established by the government of Taiwan and the US government. St. Lucian women benefit from advanced training and capacity building workshop offered by the GCTF. One successful outcome was the training in climate and smart agriculture business. I've met several young women who are quite interested and excited about this initiative. Every job requires some form of ICT knowledge. Everyone must have some exposure to ICT knowledge. More women do IT now than previously, though. They do it through online schooling, etc. The situation, however, presently, which exists, there are gaps. More males are involved in technical repair, networking, web development, and coding, and owning an IT business. On the other hand, females are involved more in the user side of technology using various applications. These must be addressed, and I know the government, of which I'm a part of, will be addressing this as quickly as possible. If we wish to improve women's participation in decision-making in the digital age, as I close, I wish to indicate that our government's desire is to fully integrate ICTE, and we are aware that there is a need for the continuation of strategic alliances, partnerships, to continue implementing that policy. International technology providers, intergovernmental agencies, donor organizations, friendly governments. Speaking of which, on behalf of our Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip J. Pierre, the government and people of St. Lucia, I want to extend sincere thanks and appreciation to the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan, for your generosity in helping us achieve our goal of creating balance in the St. Lucian context, helping to expose men and women, girls and boys to ICT at various levels, thereby empowering them and improving their lives and livelihoods. To you, we owe a debt of gratitude. I look forward to us continuing to work together for the growth and development of our peoples of St. Lucia and Taiwan. I thank you. Sheshe.
Thank you, Madam Reynolds, for your insightful presentation. Let's remember once again, women make up only 28% of the workforce in technology, as you rightly mentioned. Now, allow me to introduce our next speaker, the Honorable Yi Chuen Chen, Taiwan's first female Deputy Minister of the National Science and Technology Council. She will share Taiwan's initiatives to advance gender inclusivity and progress to date. Madam Deputy Minister, please go ahead.
Probably also need the pointer. Ambassador Lee, distinguished guests, my dear friends, good evenings. It's truly an honor to be here to talk about one very important questions and demands. Why are so little women contribute to STEM? Could I have my slide? Yes, okay. I am with NSTC, a National Science and Technology Council. This is a funding agency. Now, as we all know, that UN actually had claimed that there are 17 very important goals for the next 10 years to come. And one of the most important one, obviously, is gender equality. Now, if we look at in Taiwan, that almost 20 years ago, we already implant the gender mainstreams in Taiwan. We had raised this issue. And then 10 years later, we actually put this under the supervision of Executive Yuan, one of the most important government domains, to supervise how these policies being executed. Now, however, if we look at the current status, we are in a pretty good condition. For example, in this Gender Equality Index, we were ranked #1 in Asia and #6 to probably 7th in the world. So, also, that in 2019, we have legalization of the same-sex marriage. In our legislator Yuan, we have 40% of female senators. So actually, the whole societies are pretty recognized. We recognize the importance of gender equality. Now, I want to show you a figure that could be a little bit shocking. This is the data for, actually it's quite shocking to us. It is the data from 2021. Look at what we began, that we have males and female students, to start with, almost 50%. And then, when they get into master degrees, it goes down a little bit. For PhD, further, the female parts reduce a little bit, and that reflects in the faculty member, right? But what's shocking to me and many of my colleagues is that if we look at the R1 grant, the funding is much lower. And these two grants are the most prestigious grant and award awarded by NSTC. It goes, the female scientists go so low. So we asked ourselves, what happens? How could we help? So I'm going to tell you what we have been doing, and we will appreciate input from the audience. We are taking 3 different approaches. We fund projects. That is the first part, and I will go a little bit into detail. We also support women in research by our funding mechanism and also by in collaboration with non-government organizations. Let me tell you a little bit in detail. Now, we fund projects that focus on analyzing gender difference in science and technology. That is very important because then we can see why in different disciplines there are so much difference and can we improve it. So every year, in the past few years, that we funded 35 projects out of more than 100 projects, and those are including, for example, how can we improve the health outcome for a different gender. And also, for example, the gender research in ICT, as we had talked a lot about. Also, one thing pretty important is a very friendly environment, right? So friendly environment that including Science and Technology Institute, for example, is it friendly to females? And also probably in aging society, is our society friendly to aged females or aged men? So we had done that. We want to be able to look at those questions and have certain answers so we could refer to our government's different domain and see whether we could improve the policy. And that includes, for example, I'm not going to bore you with detail, but guess, in elderly population, for those that probably have physical disability or cognitive impairment, either men or women, which gender actually would contribute or comply to physical therapy? Which gender would that be? Yes. So that actually implies one thing. If you want to actually promote aged men to actually accept physical therapy, we need to have a different way of doing things. So those are the importance of those projects. Now, return to science. Why do we want to bring women return to science? Why do they leave science? I could tell you my story. I have up to now maybe 20 PhD students graduate from my lab. 2 of my best students are female. They graduated, published well. They just went home, take care of their youngster. And they told me that I need to be with them when they are young. So what should I do? I let them go back. But they are really good. When they return to, when the child getting too older, is it easy for them to get into a grant application or projects? No, it's going to be very difficult. So what can we do? What we can do is that if they're in this category, when their child are younger than 3 years old, we have a specific category, invite them to submit grant. And we support them. So this is what it looks like. For example, in this particular year, we have close to maybe 600 to 700 grant applications. We select the best of them, 25%, and have them work in that category and produce research data, produce paper, so it will be easy for them in the future to apply new grant. Look at the grant successful rate. They actually move higher and higher, so they would return. So this is the thing we think might be helpful. Another thing is that, is it easy to be a woman, to have a child really young and work very hard in your research? Hard, right? So what can we do? Actually, it's also hard for a man, but okay. So basically, in 2021, we have support female with young child, additional personnel. For example, research assistant or postdoc. So they are eligible to have more support. Now, like I said, men is also important. So we also support men with young child. Okay, so up to now we have supported a couple hundreds of projects for this. Also, we provide childcare in international conference, so they could come to conference. Now my time is pretty much up. I want to tell you that we also care very much because I think education is a critical point. So we started with high school. This is one example that we look for girls in cybersecurity, the hottest topic now, right? And this is our president, Tsai, as you can see. And this is what we are looking for attendee is a female student in high school. When they are 15, 16, and 17, we want to convince them that STEM is a good business to go into. So our president, our vice president, all show up to encourage them. And who's the instructor? We invite those that in the area, not just technology, but also those making technology policy and also technology law. So we invite those having an important education part, and hopefully we'll create more talented women in STEM. We also support a society that would encourage and promote women in science and technology. So basically, in summary, that we have several approaches, including education, as I talk about here, and also we encourage them to come back to this field by providing them a special category of grant, and also we provide them with family help because anyway, family is a very, very important value, I think, not just in Taiwan, but also to our friends here. Another thing is that we also provide childcare. So I'm not going to repeat myself, but I do want to mention one thing. I think one thing very important is that we need to enhance our female leadership. So this is another goal that we are thinking of. So at the end, thank you so much.
Madam Deputy Minister, thank you for your presentation. I would also like to highlight that women in Taiwan currently hold 42% of the seats in parliament, well above the world average, and sets a good example for other nations to follow. Now we will move on to the second part of this panel, and I'd like to invite 4 distinguished guests to the stage: Carolyn Dimi, Nai Yinko, Vivi Lin, and Sandra Gonzalez-Gould. May I please have you to the stage? Thank you for being here. Let me briefly introduce our panelists. Carolyn Dimi is the president of Soroptimist International of Europe, an international network working to educate and empower women and girls in more than 40 countries. A mother of 3 children, Carolyn has been leading her organization with a mission to transform the lives and the status of women. Sandra Gonzalez-Gould is also a Soroptimist from Sweden, and she's the program director of Soroptimist International of Europe. Nai Yinko is a distinguished professor of the Department of Nursing and Department of Public Health at the College of Medicine in National Cheng Kung University. Dr. Ko is a well-known advocate for social justice and health equity and human rights advocacy for the minority population in Asia. Dr. Ko was also the pioneer in starting the HIV counseling and testing programs in Taiwan in the early 1990s. Vivi Lin is the Chief Executive Officer of the Global with Red Association. She's the founder of With Red, the first and most influential NGO to promote equity and eliminate period poverty and stigma in Taiwan. Vivi also founded the Red House Period Museum, the only physical museum currently existing worldwide, a human rights activist. Vivi also teaches at National Taiwan University. She also received the Diana Legacy Award for her accomplishments in menstrual equity. It's great to have you here. Thank you for joining me. I believe it is important to identify the obstacles and barriers women and girls face to participate in digital life. And so let's begin with these challenges and obstacles we are facing so that we could maybe offer solutions. And we could perhaps start by sharing your experiences you have faced as women and how you use technology to overcome these challenges. Carolyn, let's begin with you. With us your experiences and the challenges?
Well, actually, a digital life reflects the life of the society in itself. So we as Soroptimists, we are 100 years old. when you look at the education 100 years ago, there were no girls at school. So we have taken a great leap forwards in those 100 years to have girls at school. We made it. We have girls at school. We saw it in your presentation. From there on, the next step is, of course, to have them, when they're out of school, taking part in professional life. This also, we made it. You show this, we made it. Not in STEM, but we could prove that this is possible. So why wouldn't it not be possible for STEM girls now? So our experience is that we have made projects all over the world. So Optimist are represented all over the world, actually, and our focus is each time on education. Honorable Ambassador, education is also a human right. So we have very much focused on that, and we could see how it brings an entire society together with the girl that receives education to the next level. So this is like the best experience ever. So our nowadays Sir Optimist International President, Maureen Maguire, has her own project called Opening Doors to a Bright Future. And this is really emphasizing on bringing smart education like digital tools to those like in very rural countries. And we invest actually in there. It's not charity, it's not donating, it is really investing in there. So we think from there on that she has been, it's called Opening Doors to a Bright Future. So it will not happen in the 2 years she will be president, but she is making the fundamentals of a bright future.
Thank you. Carol, if you could pass the microphone to Sandra. Sandra, could you please share your experiences and your story and the challenges you have faced as women and how you use technology to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, thank you. And dear all, and I would say dear friends, supporting the joint efforts for an equal world. And thank you for having me here. The technology has increased our efficiency a lot when it comes to our organization. We are present in over 121 countries. So, of course, we do have challenges of reaching all the members. But today, boards are meeting regularly online. Across the federations, clubs are meeting each other, projects have been set up, and also on federation level, we set up specific task forces to battle specific topics, such as gender-based violence. And it is also used for knowledge-sharing purposes in more or less on a weekly basis. And we use all tools, WhatsApp, Zoom, and Teams. Friendship groups have been set up on Facebook, just to mention a few examples of increasing the connectivity between members, and they are becoming friends. From an international perspective, we are now able to set up webinars on specific topics, such as education, and such as the international project. And then we are reaching over 70,000 women worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Dr. Ko, you have a medical background, and if you could share your experiences and the challenges women face in the medical field and how you use technology to come up with ideas and solutions to the problems women are facing.
Before I share my experience, I would like to ask all of you one question. During COVID-19, if you are infected and quarantined or isolated in a room, especially in hospital, who accompany you most? Who provide care to you? Nurse. Nurses is the majority of workforce in healthcare. but because majority of women, a majority of nurses are female, so we are neglected. As a woman, as a nurse, as a feminist, I would like to share you a story. I am one of the first health professionals provide care for cases infected with COVID-19. And the most impressive cases for me, she is a mother, and she takes care of her children. And because she had a birthday, so she decided to bring her children to travel with her. And she got infected. And she was blamed by their family. Why you bring children outside of country and got infected? I always remember her look at the window and tell me, it's not my fault. I just want to be happy. I just want to be together with my children. Yeah, what's wrong with me? And I remember a few female, the girl, yeah, also got infected and isolated in a hospital. And they went to the internet and bought some gift for themselves, clothes themselves, and also bought gifts for their mothers. So you will see how different between the younger generation and the older generation. Yeah, so I would say digital or information technology will empower women and female and adolescents. They learn how to share their story and tell what they want, and also pursue their dream. That is quite different. And as a nurse, we apply information technology. We try to penetrate our care into the isolated unit. And I think that is so important to educate healthcare providers, nurses, how to use information technology, and then to provide boundless care to our patients.
Thank you, Dr. Ko. If you could just pass the mic, please, to Vivi, and you have a mic, Vivi. Vivi, tell us about your experiences, and also if you could talk about this interesting museum you founded, that would be wonderful. Pass one of the mics, which is working.
Is it on? Okay. Thank you so much for your question. So I must put a disclaimer here. So I'm not an expert in digital or technological development, but I'm a human rights activist, and I was born and raised in a digital age. So growing up, I became an activist ever since I got my first period, and this is why I've been advocating for period equity. Social media has been at the core of our advocacy work. We've been doing a lot of things with social media, using social media as a force, as a way to promote menstrual equity all around the world. A lot of challenges happen. As in menstrual rights activists, the first challenge that we always face is people asking us, what is period poverty? I've never heard about it. Does it actually exist in the world? But period poverty exists in the world, and it's universal. It happens everywhere around the world, and period has been so stigmatized ever since thousands years ago. It is something that people all around the world experience. People do not have access to menstrual products with dignity. That is a human rights crisis that happens now. But then the challenge is, how do we make people understand that this is happening? And how do we get people to support us? So realizing that it is an elephant in the room, I decided to build a museum. At the very beginning, no one believed in me. Everybody looked at me and be like, this girl in her 20s, building a museum in Taiwan? I'm building a museum for period. What are you talking about? But then, you know, you just keep on advocating and all the obstacles. I'm not saying that it's an easy job, but I'm saying that when you have the faith, you know where's your end point, and I just keep on doing it. And then eventually we got the Period Museum celebrating period, talking everything about period, and when there is a physical building being there, no one can ignore this elephant in the room anymore. So that's a brief story of my advocacy journey.
Before I move on, I just want to have a quick follow-up. Vivi, what was the first reaction you had when you first opened this museum and how it changed over the years?
Right, so we actually opened this museum last year only, but over the past, I think, 4 years of advocating, me being an activist advocating for this for 10 years, but our organization has been there for 4 years, a lot of policy actually changed in Taiwan. So now we're actually looking forward to having a policy of having free menstrual products on all campuses in Taiwan, from primary school to secondary school. So thankfully, really, really huge thank you to the Ministry of Education and a lot of legislators who work with us in pushing forward that policy. Can we give a round of applause for this policy? Yeah, so we're also looking to change laws in terms of making sure that menstrual product is part of our mandatory social service scheme. We're also seeing a lot of different policy changes on local level. So a lot of local governments work with us, and we change a lot of policy in terms of making sure inclusive period education is accessible for all the children and adolescents, regardless of their socioeconomic background. So yeah, these are the things that we've been working on. It's been quite optimistic, I would say. Yeah, so that's, I mean, there are still a lot of obstacles in front of us. Every time I'm trying to make it sound so simple and easy, which is not. But then I would say working in Taiwan as a human rights activist, it's been a blessing.
Thank you, Vivi. Carolyn, I'd like to turn to you now. Let me share some facts first. According to the UN Women's Gender Snapshot 2022 report, the exclusion of women from the digital world has cut $1 trillion from the gross domestic product of low and middle-income countries in the past decade. Women remain systematically excluded from technology and innovation, and this means not only missing out on high-paying jobs, but also on the chance to shape the digital world we are living in. So here comes the question: how can we make the technology sector more inclusive?
Thank you. Well, I hear that big number. If you realize that any country, organization, community that would not, half of its population, not included in moving forward, in stepping forward, this is like handicapping, hindering it itself. Imagine a company on the stock exchange and the news would spread that half of its resources is not used. That would collapse on the stock exchange. It would be like a disaster because nobody would have faith in that company. Nobody would consider it is good governance to not use half of its resources. And this is what we're doing. So there is a long way to go, of course, to get us there. But none of you are nowadays like astonished when you have a female medical doctor. You have confidence in that female doctor just as much as in the male doctor. But when you step in an airplane and there is a female pilot or a male pilot, that's already a little bit more tricky. So that pilot has exactly made the same studies as the male pilot. Yet it is our attitude. So behind the educational programs we all have, we will get there. Those STEM girls, when they are older, that gap will not be that big again, it will tighten. We will get there. But it is our attitude of us all that makes that half of that population that is not respected for its skills, not respected for the studies they have done, not respected for the PhD they have. It is our task, and we, especially us as a women organization, we are there to empower them. On European level, we have scholarship, we have leadership academies that learn them to lead. We have mentoring projects. We are all professional women, so we have this role model task upon us to engage other younger girls to get there and to create an atmosphere that it is respected in the end. And then, of course, our economies also will be better, and there will be better paid, those girls or those ladies. So beyond this, it is not just educating, it is also empowering and then enabling, making there is a stage, a working place, a platform where young women in STEM are respected, that they are given a chance. It has nothing to do with children at home. That is temporary. If you create a space, so many are working from home nowadays, if you create a space that it is acceptable, in the Nordic countries, Sandra, you are very much ahead of that, a space that it is acceptable to combine family life and professional life, a professional career, I would say. That is our task. That is a task of any community that wants to step forward. Is this sound that I have to stop? No. Oh. I could talk for ages about women's and standing up for women's.
Carolyn, I would like to follow up on your remarks. You talked about women being empowered, and we see women in technology, in medicine, in many different fields. But we also see the fact that, let's give an example, a female doctor gets paid less than a male doctor, or a pilot, or women in technology. They make less money than their male colleagues. And how do we deal with that problem? Because there is also inequality in terms of payment. So can you also elaborate on that, please?
First of all, by not calling it a problem, but looking for the solution. Inequality is simply unacceptable. But you have to be aware where that comes from. And it comes from the governments. So if they don't have those skills with the labor parties all together, like, okay, this is the work that has to be done, and this is the pay you get for it. Simple as that. Whether what sexuality, what gender you have, it doesn't matter. The work is done, the pay is there. So it is actually a very simple solution to what is called a problem. But those people who are creating all those problems, they should be aware about this, all the money they lose. They lose the money because if you are not paid properly, you don't work properly. You don't perform properly. That's a basic economic rule, I would say. Demand and offer. So if you are not offered enough, you will not do it. So please think about that. This inequality is actually because we don't see the solution to it, and it's so simple. But governments have to work on that. All those institutions, all those CIOs, conventions and all of that about workforce, there should not be a gender in that. It should be that work, that job, that pay, period.
Thank you, Carolyn. And now I'd like to turn to Sandra and address this question to you, Sandra. While digital technology can bring huge advantages, there is no doubt it also can facilitate violence, and unfortunately, we see women and girls facing online harassment, online sexual exploitation and abuse. How can technology help end gender-based violence, not only in the digital age we are living in, but in everywhere, because it's not just online harassment, but we still have a lot of gender-based violence going on around the world?
Yeah, as we know, information sharing, connectivity is a good thing, but as you mentioned, we really see the disadvantages as well. The gender-based violence is now online, but as an organization, we also have a long-term commitment. We have been doing campaigns for years about stop violence against women and girls. And during the pandemic, we also took a big step forward of reaching that message to more and online. And it is needed. And I just want to give you a concrete example, and that is about supporting women and young women's shelters. And now many clubs have had online webinars with these shelters to reach a wider audience, and also to bring their expertise to more people. And we have also been part of the UN initiative, Orange the World, and here has the creativity in being really huge. Online campaigns for sure, but really also offline solutions. We have seen QR codes on posters all over Europe, all over the world, just to increase the accessibility to hotlines, and of course informing about that there is a help for them that are affected by gender-based violence. We also see a tendency that we as an organization, we are working on more prevention. Also trying to reach younger girls in schools and doing cooperation in that sense. And also, of course, and with the expertise offered for shelter and local authorities. But we also see that trafficking is not only offline, it's also online, and therefore we also doing a lot of efforts that locally, we have been driving a lot of campaigns in local languages. So we can also see that actually grassroots projects can be a way to influence on UN level, because we have representatives both in Geneva, Vienna, and of course then here in New York, and actually also in other places. So we will definitely continue our effort, because we really think about a safer world for all girls when it comes to battle this.
Thank you, Sandra. Dr. Ko, can you talk about the role of digital innovation, technology, and education in improving health outcomes for women and girls, especially those who experience compounding barriers to health and well-being?
Right now, nowadays, most of healthcare innovation are invented by men, and they focus on the outstanding and groundbreaking technology, but the human center and from the patient center is still, we need more on that part. So I would like to say, because I invented a wearable device, I realized that patient center or people center innovation is quite different from, we already find a technology and we try to apply. So the aspect is different. So I would like to say for the healthcare, so probably we need to help more healthcare provider, not only for the physician or doctor to invent new technology. We need to encourage female healthcare provider from their perspective, from the patient center, from the client center point of view to develop a new technology or innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ko, Vivi, I'd like to turn to you now. You are also a diversity, equity, inclusion, and human rights activist. So tell us how we can reach to marginalized women and girls, such as indigenous women, women with disabilities, women in rural areas, women on the move, elderly women, LGBTIQ+ communities, and how do we make sure that they participate in digital life? And how does your organization encourage the development and use of digital technologies as a resource for the empowerment of women?
Thank you for your question. It's a really big question. But before I answer this question, I really want to add on to what Dr. Kuhl mentioned about in terms of the medical devices and also a lot of technology that's been developing, especially for women or female population. It is an emerging market in terms of femtech, and we do need, so I'm calling for more investors coming into the femtech market. It's a good business, and it does affect a huge population, more than 50% of the population on this planet. So it is a really, really important topic that we need to address, and that's why I want to add on to Dr. Ku's answer before I answer the question. But yeah, talking about the marginalized group, it is really crucial for us to highlight the intersectionality of different communities, different demographics that we're working with. So we work really closely with a lot of communities, especially those are from lower economic status communities. They're the primarily group that we work with in terms of they are suffering from their experiencing period poverty. It's really important to look at their different needs, addressing their needs, especially when we're talking about technology. When we're designing a lot of user interface, have we talked to them and asking all these users, how can we make sure that the interface is as inclusive as enough for all of the users that are using these apps or technologies? And also, have we looked into the privacy and information security, cyber security of all these apps? It's been a really popular topic to talk about the period tracking app. I'm sure a lot of the people who menstruate in this room, we all use period tracking app, right? And the period tracking app, they know everything about our uterus. But then, how about our privacy? How do they use these data? Where do they share these data, and who do they share these data with? And this is a really important topic, especially for those from marginalized communities, because a lot of the discriminations, a lot of the things that happen is because they do not have the inclusivity in terms of technology when we're talking about all these inventions. So this is a really important part. Also talking about the misinformation. Education is always the key. We're using a lot of social media as a form of advocacy, but then at the same time, there are so many different contents on social media which we cannot identify whether they're true or not. So the disinformation education, how do we identify what is wrong, what is right, is very important to integrate in the everyday education going from primary, because people using TikTok in their primaries already, right? So it's really important to start from the primary, or even before that, talking about the misinformation education starting from a really young age.
Thank you, Vivi. I'd like to address this question to all our panelists. How can we create an equal future for all in all spheres of life, including technology? Vivi, I'll start with you.
I was out drinking water because I caught a cold. This is my first time in New York. I think I'm just not that familiar with germs in North America. But yeah, sorry, your question was how can we build a more equal... Yeah, so we actually wrote our vision on our hoodie of our organization, Rightfully Owning Our True Self. I truly believe that an equal world means all humans are just humans. You know, we all have different identities, regardless as the differences lie in gender, religious belief, skin color, race, ethnicity, anything. There's so many differences that can lead us to disparity. But the only way that we can build a more equal world is when we start celebrating that diversity and making sure inclusivity is at the core of everything, all the design, everything, every conversation that we have. Use work as hard as you can to make sure that your conversation is inclusive enough, and celebrating that diversity can make diversity into a power for sustainable changes, and that's how we can actually build an equal world.
Thank you, Vivi. Dr. Ko, your thoughts on that, please?
I would say invest in health is invest in digital technology in the digital age. So invest including like the education and like research grant support, and also to open any opportunity to all healthcare providers, not only physicians, not only male doctors. Because I would say, yeah, many farmer, they come to hospital, they try to find male doctor, and then encourage male doctor to invest new technology to solve the problem. But the female healthcare provider, including nurse, occupational therapist, language therapist, many of them are lack of opportunity. So provide opportunity is important. Investment is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ko. Sandra, what is your take?
Thank you. I would say that we really need to have what I call a 360 view. We really need to see that we are including this in so many areas. We have seen wonderful examples about ICT centers, and we need to continue that in all areas. And also have a special message also to include financial violence. And as we now are handling our financial at home, that is also affecting the women. Because if we two were out on the street, I were taking out money from the ATM, and then I take the money from you, and that will be seen as a robbery. But that is now happens behind the doors. And I think also the legislation and laws needs to take that into consideration, that women and girls are more affected, and that is also part of the violence. Thank you.
Carolyn, what is your take?
I think we learned a lot of lessons during all the lockdown period. And so it has been a horrendous period, but we can take something positive out of it. We learned to move forward much, much faster. And I would like to see everyone taking that path, that tempo up, to move faster forward. If you look at our society, how many people will be needed for this ICT sector? Why wouldn't we fill it in with a majority of women? They are already prepared in the schools. They are there. So let them fill in the vacant places. We can do it. We did it already. There are so many countries in the world where girls are not going to school yet. We help them. Let's help our societies also to help girls to go into the technology sector. We can do that. It is, I really appeal to all of you, to everyone you know, tell them it is possible, and that we should stop talking about it. We should act from now on. Now, not waiting.
Thank you, Carolyn. Your messages were spot on and exactly what we needed to finish our panel on a high note. When women and girls are empowered, we make the world a better place. And this concludes our panel discussion. Let's give a big round of applause to these amazing women, to our guest speakers, to Ambassador Lee and his team, and to all of you for being here. Thank you.